Welcome back to the Paw Print Podcast. Today we have a great episode in store for you guys. We're going to be talking about fan identity and what it means. And I'm one of your hosts, Silas Carr.
Yeah, I'm Robert.
I'm Jack.
I'm Shay.
Yeah. Well, like Silas mentioned, today we'll be talking about fan identity and its role in sports media and how it's developed by sports media. But as usual, I think step one for a good conversation is getting on the same page with what we mean by that. So, how would you define fan identity and what does it mean to you?
I think fan identity is like the sense of belonging or like your connection to like either the team or like an athlete or even just a sport in general. And it's not really just like liking the team or caring about it. It's like kind of making it almost a part of who you are.
I agree. I think it's kind of like how you define yourself. Like I'd say like I'm a Clemson fan, and that would be like something I would use to like describe myself.
Interesting. I agree.
Yeah, and there's definitely varying levels to it. Um, there's the person that just wears a Clemson hat every now
hmm
and then. There's a person that will participate in Solid Orange Friday every single week and will be super outspoken about it. Um, and so it's kind of like a spectrum of like where you lie for your fandom.
Yeah, I agree with all of those thoughts. There are definitely levels to fan identity. And I think it was Silas, how you described it as like a sense of belonging. And I think that's a good summary. All of us were Clemson Tiger fans, and as a result, we feel like we belong at Clemson and belong in the crowds at the games and belong wearing orange on Fridays. So I think that is a good summary. But another important thing to keep in mind with fan identity is that it has meaning for us. Like I'm passionate about the Clemson Tigers football team because I consider myself to be a Clemson Tiger. That's fan identity from my perspective, but it also has meaning and value for businesses on the financial side of the um, sports realm, I guess. And I think that's really important because fan identity matters to me and it matters to Clemson University because that's how they sell tickets and media rights and all of that. So I think that's, I guess, a cool part of the equation. Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, like from the business perspective or?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely on there with we like to see it, I think, as inclusion and like, there's the whole Clemson family thing as I
hmm
mean, it's a big selling point of the university, but you're definitely right on it is while we do take comfort in it, and I do think it's a good thing, it is a selling point in both ways of getting people to buy into the university and getting people to buy into the merchandise.
hmm
Because you can't run if you can't make a profit, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to be able to fund a team. You're not going to be able to fund the institution. And so I think how organizations define fan identity or sport or fan identity goes along with how they're able to sell that their own team.
Yeah,
I definitely
absolutely.
agree with that.
I
Without,
agree too.
the real fan identity, I don't teams really wouldn't sell as much. People probably wouldn't buy as much merchandise, tickets, just any of that. So fan identity is definitely important for the organizations overall. How do you guys think social media helps shape fan identity and loyalty?
Um, I think it's a really big contributor. Um,
I
you,
agree.
on social media, we follow lots of different accounts and lots of different creators that are related to our fan identity. And as a result, we're kind of exposed to it constantly. If you open up Instagram on a Saturday and scroll through, you're gonna see all kinds of posts and whatnot about the football game. So you can't really escape it. It's kind of always on your mind because of social media, and that contributes to your fan identity and how intensely you feel you are a Clemson Tiger.
It
I agree.
also,
Go
you go
ahead.
ahead.
I think social media platforms have also like fully transformed how fans engage with their teams too, because we have X or Twitter, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, Snapchat even, and like Yik Yak people post on. And I feel like there's so many different ways that people can kind of engage with their engage and like communicate directly with their teams through comments and
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. And also like Reddit, I feel like is kind of like different threads. People can like connect with different people. And I feel like that also is a sense of identity because people find like other people that they connect with and agree on the same things and then talk about different parts of this game and stuff. So I feel like it's like added a lot to fan identity for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. With like on Instagram stories, I feel like you see a lot. That's the easiest way. I think a lot of people engage with their fan identity. Reposting the post that shows like the final score when their team wins.
Hmm.
Um, this week I saw a lot of people, and now Instagram has like the repost function. Um, I saw a lot of people reposting the clip of Dabo ranting about refs and accountability with refs. And so when you lose, there's also some kind of, or whenever your coach has messaging, there's fan identification there by showing that you condone their messaging and wanting to spread it. I've also seen a lot this past week, or I guess since the World Series. A lot of people have, and you see this with any championship, I think, but there's a lot of accounts that have changed their profile pictures to like the logo of like the Dodgers winning how they always make a different logo for each championship. So I've seen a lot of Dodgers World Series logos because they just won. And it's something clearly people take pride in when their team
Hmm.
wins it all, and you can just easily change your profile picture so that everyone can see that.
Yeah. Shay,
Definitely agree with
oh, I'm
you. Got
sorry. You go,
you got
Silas.
it. You got it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I was just going to add, Shay, I liked what you were saying about social media and the way it allows people to comment on things and whatnot. And you can
Hmm.
more directly interact with players and with teams and whatnot. And, we've talked about all semester long with parasocial relationships and that sort of thing. But that in and of itself, that ability of social media for that two-way communication, plays a huge role in developing parasocial relationships, and
Hmm.
that plays a big role in people's fan identity. Whenever you can comment on a post and the team comments back, that definitely makes you
Hmm.
a lifelong fan. So I think
I
that's
agree.
important to mention.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, Robert, and you too, Shay. I just think social media has just really transformed what it means to be a fan, pretty much. Like
Hmm.
now we're just not just sitting in our houses just watching the game, but we can tweet about the game, post about the game, repost what other people are saying. And I just think it like reshapes everything. Because like now we're not just watching, we can actually be interactive and share our thoughts and how we feel, and it just makes the sport more interactive, and we can talk to other people, see how they're feeling, and we can even connect with the team, our own team, like you said, Robert.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys think you guys have become like bigger fans of certain teams because of like their social media and like interacting with certain things?
I would say yes. I would say yes. I think Clemson's presence on social media has played a role.
I would say yes too. I feel like the also like the hype videos like before the
Hmm.
games like make people so much more excited. And then like also like the polls and stuff that they post, and I feel like the Clemson social media is like really good at keeping their
Hmm.
fans engaged, and especially with how terrible we've been, I feel like they've been like good about what they're posting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, social media, as we've talked about a lot, has increased the parasocial interactions between people and the athletes. And I remember a few seasons back, the the San Diego Padres had a big thing of like in their dugout I think it was whenever they did a home run, they would take a Polaroid picture and then they would post that Polaroid picture on their Instagram, and like it just made it feel more like a family vibe, and
Hmm.
like that got a lot of people to buy into what was going like to the team. I remember I got pretty invested in their season. I can't remember if it was last season or 2 seasons ago, but I got pretty invested just because they were building up the relationship between their players, and I don't have any connection to the Padres. I'm not from California. I'm from South Carolina, but it still made me care about their team because of what they're posting.
Mm. Well, what about traditional media sources? We've talked a lot about social media, but what sort of a role does a print newspaper article or a website or radio broadcasts, how does that play a role in fan identity?
Well, we just talked to Grayson Mann, who does last week, who does
Hmm.
the um, it's on the Roar, right? Is the radio that he does
He
Yeah.
yes,
the
he's
pregame
on the
show?
Roar and he
Yeah,
writes for TigerNet, so he's
right.
involved in all sorts of traditional
Um,
media.
well, I know, like for one, like every whenever I would drive to games with my dad, every single time we would drive to Clemson, we would listen to that pregame show. Um, and you get to know, like they're not players, but you get to know this whole other side of the organization, and it's like they're almost like more professional fans, and it makes you feel, um, it makes you in a way feel connected to that scene.
Yeah. I like that phrasing, professional fan. Because in a way that really is what Grayson Mann's role is, but he does it well, and that does contribute to fan identity.
I just feel like newspapers for like people that aren't on social media or aren't like as into all that, like I think there still is like a good amount of people that do like read about. Like I know my mom, she's not on social media, but she'll like look up articles and like
Hmm.
she listens to like the radio stuff too. So I feel like there is still a lot of people that aren't as like technologically advanced that still keep up in like ways like that, which helps them like keep their fan base strong.
Yeah. Yeah, for me personally, I do use social media some, and like I said, I think it has contributed to my fan identity. But I also do really like to read a long form article and whatnot. Maybe that's weird for people from our generation, but I do read a lot of TigerNet articles and whatnot, and I think that being really informed about the team and having an idea of what to expect and or maybe what happened last week, that sort of thing plays a big role in fan identity as well.
Do you guys see any relationship between fan identity and collective or individual self-esteem?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a relationship. Like Shay mentioned earlier, this has been a down year for Clemson football to say the least, and certainly not what we expected. And as a result, things do seem a little sadder around campus than maybe in past years when we were competing for championships and whatnot. It was definitely a more upbeat vibe. And even for me personally, it's definitely disappointing to think about where we were before August 30th to where we are now. It's certainly a 180.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
agree. I
agree with
feel
you,
like,
Robert.
go ahead, Silas.
I was just gonna say that like fans, I don't think we just support a team, especially us, because we go to the school, so it's like we're almost like a part of it. So we're having a down year, so everybody else is a little down. But when we're winning, when we're succeeding, I think it like really boosts the mood of everything overall.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say too.
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking about like the mood being down. I mean, you can see it pretty much everywhere.
Hmm.
Specifically on game days. Um, like I went downtown last weekend before the game, and it was a noon game, but there was like hardly anyone downtown at all. Um, and if you compare that to like before the LSU game, it was loaded. Like you couldn't breathe downtown. Um, and so we haven't had another night game until this weekend. We have Florida State. So I guess we'll see if it's just the noon games vibe that was bringing people down on game days. But I would hazard a guess and say it's going to be a lot more subdued than it was at the start of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the results definitely make a big difference in people's fan identity. I've always been interested, and this is just a really small example, but in years when the Clemson football team is performing well, the collective community of the university says things like, "We are going to win today on any given Saturday." Whenever we're having a down year, you hear phrases like, there's no way they can beat Florida State or something like that. And you shift from that we to them, or you say things like
Hmm.
Clemson or the team. You don't have that association with it. I
Right.
think the article we read called it the difference between burgeoning and corfing, like basking in reflected glory or cutting off reflected failure, I think was what it was.
Sure.
And I think that's a huge part of collective self-esteem as it relates to fan identity. When we're up, we are up, but when we're down, just they are down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you guys for listening in. That's the first part of our podcast. We'll be right back with the second part where we'll be having a conversation with Emma Hudson. Welcome back to the Paw Print Podcast. We're on part two of our segment, and we're going to have a great conversation here with Emma Hudson.
Yeah. Thank you, Silas. So, Emma, could you please just tell us about yourself, your career, where you're at in your career, and how you got to where you are today? Just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Emma Hudson. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, but I'm a senior at USC Upstate, so y'all's rival, up in Spartanburg. My major is exercise science, but my focus is more of the sport management side of things. I got started. In my freshman orientation, I applied to be the mascot as a joke. I was like, you know what, something different. Let's just see how it goes. So I applied as a joke. I ended up getting it. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna roll with it. God's got a plan. Let's see how this goes. And it really has opened so many doors for me. So I did that for a little bit just for fun. But then the staff over at Upstate let me kind of use my energy for something outside of a suit. So I got into a lot of emceeing. And then recently I've gotten into a lot of sports photography because we had someone call out sick. And so I was like, all right, I'll try it. We had a baseball game. So outside of Upstate, I also do some work for the Greenville Drive Triumph, and I used to do some work for the Greenville Swamp Rabbits as well.
Uh, Uh, so definitely a very interesting path there and a whole lot of involvement. So thank you for summarizing that for us and introducing yourself to our viewers. Our main topic today is talking about fan identity and what it means in sports. But I guess based off of everything you've done in sports with the Greenville Drive and the Greenville Triumph, your involvement at USC Upstate, um, just what would you say the value of fan identity is, and how does it benefit all of those different organizations?
I feel like sports are nothing without the fan. I always say no matter what area of sports you work in, you want to make a fan's experience important. So whether it's their first game or their 50th, that's something that I and the people I work with always try to live by. Because we experienced it during COVID where we had games and there just was no energy there. And I've worked games where it's been sold out, and I've worked games where there's been 100 people there, and the energy that the players not only feed off of, but as a staff as well. Like if we have a full house at Upstate, sometimes I'll still get like pregame jitters a little bit, like getting excited and amped up to get going. So the fans really are the backbone and the heartbeat of any team, and I think any coach would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary of it. Fans are very important to sport, and really they kind of drive it in many ways, financially and in person as far as the energy goes. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Where do you think fan identity comes from? And something that we were just talking about in our previous segment, we were talking about the media and social media. And also, how do you think media can help cultivate it?
I mean, I think fan identity itself comes from tradition. You see it in, the major leagues where you've got the Raiders fans all decked out. You've got Cowboys fans going crazy. There are a lot of roots there that that kind of go. I know I'm a Bears fan, so that kind of start there and it goes up. Like you've got the 12th man for Texas A&M. So there are a lot of like geolog what I'm trying to say, geographical areas where fan identity comes from, but social media does play a huge point. I think a great example of that is the Savannah Bananas, about how they have taken, social media and they have interacted the fans so heavily into their game that has given them such a big following, has created part of their fan identity.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty much a team that has completely arisen because of social media
Yeah.
out of
Yeah.
popularity.
How do you think
Yeah.
social media has had an effect on fan identity, and do you think it's like one of the most important parts of fan identity too?
I think the biggest thing a fan wants to do is be seen. So for me, for example, I don't know if you can tell by the background, I'm a diehard Atlanta Braves fan. So for me, like if I wear a jersey or something like that, it's that identity of being recognized and being like, oh, I'm a Braves fan too, because then it creates a connection. So I do think social media has a huge impact in that. I don't know if it's the most important thing because I do think what the team is doing on the field or on the court also does contribute. But I think it does play a huge role because we're in a follower society. So if people see something on social media, they're going to pick up on it, they're going to follow it, and it's essentially jumping on the bandwagon.
We talked in the last segment, our conversational segment about like fan self-esteem. And right now we're seeing that with Clemson, with not having a great football season. And so the mood is a little downtrodden on game days. Um, as someone that's like working with fan engagement, how do you see like that self-esteem kind of come into play?
I mean, it definitely is a huge factor, especially in a time where a lot of people are placing bets and doing things like that heavily impact the sport. Um, but I think too, you're always going to have that fan that's going to be up and down, and they're always going to ride the wave of their team's success. I used to be that way with the Braves, and then I was like, not everything in life is dependent on this sport. So you have to, depending on how big the fan base is, you're going to kind of have to deal with those kind of people, and that's totally okay. Some people, that's just how their lifestyle is, and you know that's awesome, but you're always going to have that group that you're going to have to try to manage.
And do you see any like how is it working? Because like Greenville Drive, for example, is it's a regional team. Someone across the country probably isn't really familiar with them as if they were an MLB team where someone across the country would know who the Braves are. Um, does working in like a more regional team make it a little bit more personal?
It definitely does for sure, especially because the Drive is a low A team. um and it is affiliate of the Boston Red Sox, but I see it like from the players as well. Like, there's some guys that are international and there's some guys that are straight out of high school or straight out of college. And they're all just like blessed for the chance to be able to play the game they love for a living. So it is personal. So like I've gotten to know a lot of the guys and develop that relationship on the field of like, oh, home run, do a handshake, that kind of thing. Each team is a little bit different. Hockey, for example, a lot of their guys are older and they jump up and down more frequently. And it is more of like that step before the National Hockey League. But yeah, I definitely think for the fans as well, especially our season ticket holders at the Drive, like they do a great job of getting to know them, doing the autographs, meeting the families, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's also interesting to think about how like USC Upstate, for example, I know about the basketball team. You can like after the game, like you can just meet all the players. They
Yeah.
come out, they interact with the kids. I haven't been actually to a game in a few years because I'm in Clemson now, but I remember like they would come out, they would sign autographs, they would take pictures with everyone. They were just super friendly, like they were just people, they were just part of the community. Um, and And I just think that's a really cool aspect of sports that you don't get. And like in Clemson, you don't ever see the players. And if you do, it's like randomly and it's like there'll be like probably like a crowd around them or something like that. And it's just cool how sports can make someone like a bigger part of the community. Um Another interesting thing I was thinking about is how like because the basketball stadium is smaller at Upstate, any fan that's energized, anyone that wants to shout out something. I mean, the referees, the entire coaching staff, all the players, they're
Yeah.
gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
I
think
just
it's
think
really
that's
cool.
fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, good.
I think it's Upstate does a great job as well because it is a smaller setting, but they like the kids get so heavily involved. Like after the game, we let the kids shoot on the court, or we'll pick a kid to play a game. So I do like if I was a little kid, I would be like over the moon. I'm like, oh my gosh, this college basketball player just came and dapped me up. And so the guys do a very good job about that, and that is one positive of Upstate being that smaller mid-major college is fans are able to have that experience. And like you said, like you kind of get to know one another. You know, my parents did season tickets last year and got to know the people around them. So it really is, it's like it's a small community in a way.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting what you said there at the end, about how the players do a really good job in building that fan identity even from a young age. So I guess other than that, in all of your involvement in sports, is there anything else I guess you've observed where players can make a difference in fan identity directly?
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of it stems from the coaching staff. Because coaches obviously have a huge influence and a huge impact on the players. So for Upstate basketball, for example, he has all of his guys go to the exits at the end of the game, win or loss, and just be like, "Thank y'all for coming. Like, thank you for supporting us." Something super short and quick, but it makes such a lasting impact, and therefore fans like feel that connection, and then they want to come back. Um, so I do think, especially in the upstate community towards Greenville, they do a lot of like fan meet and greets, things like that. And I do think that that does have a huge impact because it's like that special relationship of like, oh my gosh, I got to meet this person. You know,
Mhm.
they recognize me and they acknowledge that I'm there to support them.
Yeah. Clemson actually, now that I think about it, does something a little bit similar. Not on the same level, but after football games, we do the gathering of the paw. Um,
Yes, I've heard of
and
that. Yeah.
so um, win or lose, no matter what. And it's a little bit different this year because of the changes in ACC rules. But once the opposing teams and coaches and players off the field, the all the fans are able to come onto the field and um, you know. We were talking about some of that, so that's fan self-esteem. It's probably not as energetic this year, but people will get autographs from the players, take pictures. I think it's really cool. I think it's something special. You were talking about sports are tradition based, and I just think it's very important that teams have things like that.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, it's just like a small gesture to where like there's no cost. It doesn't cost the school anything. It doesn't cost the fan anything, but it's just that extra step to create that deeper connection.
How do you think rivalries like between schools kind of affect or shape fan identity?
Oh, I think so. Obviously, from a different level, Clemson has Clemson, South Carolina. But I said it earlier, our big rival's Wofford. We're like 4 minutes down the road from them. And so it is a whole thing. Like, you know, someone could not come to a game all year, and then they're like, oh, it's Wofford week. Like, we need to go out to this soccer game, or we need to go to this basketball game, that kind of thing, because it is like that rivalry and it creates that sense of unity within people. So, no matter their major, hometown, all that stuff, like, they're like, oh, we're coming to support Upstate against our rivals, or we're coming to support Clemson against our rivals. You know what I mean? So, it is like a chance for everybody to come together for a common like goal of support.
Have you seen now that Spartanburg also has a baseball team?
Yeah.
Has there been any kind of like rivalry between the Spartanburgers and the Drive?
I think the fans, there's been a rivalry. I don't think the players as much because, they're kind of just there to play the game. But it has been fun since I'm kind of on both sides of it, living in Greenville, but working a lot in Spartanburg. And obviously, the Spartanburgers have a relationship with Upstate. It is kind of fun to see some of the fans go back and forth. Everything I've heard has been in good fun, especially because Spartanburg made a good run this year, is down to Greenville and Spartanburg for the playoffs. So I do think like that's something that's going to grow, but I'm hoping it'll grow in like a healthy way to where it's kind of like a crosstown battle, places packed. So yeah, that's definitely been fun.
Yeah, I'm personally torn because like grew up in Spartanburg, but I grew up going to the drive game, so
That's
it's
yeah,
like
I'm biased to the drive through and through.
um do you have you like gotten any tips or tricks for like fan engagement or just anything in your job from your experience at Upstate or the Triumph or the Drive?
Yeah, I mean, I think they all have similar values. My boss Lenny at Upstate, he says, I try to live like that. He's like, be intentional with everything you do because fan engagement is such a huge thing. And he's like, you don't know what all fans are dealing with outside of Upstate or outside of the game. They don't know what you're dealing with. Everyone could have a bad day, but a game is a place to come to and kind of forget about all that and be entertained. So he's like, if it's something simple as holding the door for somebody or picking someone for a game or, that kind of thing, that could go a long way and make their day. So that is something I always try to think about during games is being like, all right, like let me slow down and let me be intentional because it is easy in a game setting to be so wrapped up in like moving quick, making sure all the check boxes are checked, doing all that stuff. And so I try to be intentional about slowing down and being like, hey, and calling someone by their name, not just being like, hey, what's up? Being like, hey, Betsy, how are you? Or hey, you know what I mean? Because it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's really true and good advice, not only in sports, but just in life in general.
Yeah.
Certainly being intentional can help build fan identity, but being intentional in your life is always a good thing to do. And I
Yeah.
think
And
people appreciate
I
it.
agree.
yeah, and each sport is going to have like its own battle. Like Upstate, for example, we have to battle against Converse and Wofford, and we have to set ourselves apart from all these other teams. And every team's like that. The Drive, the Swamp Rise, they all have to do something that sets themselves apart. And so I do think that that's something Upstate, especially, does a good job in with the community is trying to be intentional and like not just worried about making a quick dime. They're worried about making memories and helping people like unite together.
Do you do you hope to like do you plan on sticking into like around like the smaller scale side of sports, or do you want to grow to like work for a major league team in the future?
That is something I've kind of thought about. It just depends. For me, I feel like you can sometimes see the impact at a mid-major institution a lot better. Obviously, Clemson has huge impact on the upstate, but I think like for me, I'm very much someone that likes to see like progress being made. So I think eventually I would like to be an athletic director, and if I get to stay at upstate my career and get to grow through there, I'd be beyond blessed. God obviously has a plan for that, but working for the Braves would be a dream, right? That'd be that check off everything on my box. But I am such a homebody, so we'll see where God takes me.
Well, I guess one more question I have at least is just from all your involvement as a mascot and working with USC Upstate and all the other teams. What advice would you have for current students and people that might watch our podcast?
Yeah, the biggest thing I've learned is that networking goes such a long way. I get flamed all the time. Like people give me a hard time because I have a LinkedIn and because I use it frequently. But LinkedIn's how I got my job at the Drive, and it's how I met people through the Triumph to be able to work for them. So the biggest thing is networking. Obviously, your grades and everything are important as well, but taking that time to get to know somebody, you never know where that might lead. I never knew that me applying as a joke to be a mascot would result into me being the MC for a Division I sports team. So it is, like you said, you want to go about everything the right way. But I think networking is one of the biggest things someone can do.
Yeah.
Um, you work in here's another bonus question I thought of. You work in such a wide range of different sports. Is there one like sport that is more fun, like a more fun environment, or that you prefer to work in?
Baseball's my favorite, 100%, just because it's my favorite sport ever. So, I do spend a lot of time with the upstate baseball team. I've gotten to know them pretty well. They're a great group over there. I think we played Clemson a couple times, so that's always fun.
Mhm.
But then also through my work with the Drive, I've just seen how baseball is. It's a long sport. I know people say it's boring, but it's a sport that, basically anyone can understand, and it allows for time for things. There's no time limit, so people can, kind of slow down, and it's a way to get away from the rush.
Does anyone else have any closing questions?
I don't think so.
Good.
All right. Well, yeah.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
Thank you so
course. I'm
thanks.
much.
sorry about the time thing again.
No, it's okay.
But
No
thanks,
It's
worries.
y'all.
okay.
Hopefully this
Thank you
helps
for
you guys.
joining us. Yeah, it
Yeah,
Of
of
definitely
course,
will.
course.
we really
And
appreciate it.
yeah.
And that wraps up the second part of our podcast, our conversation with Emma Hudson talking about fan identity. Thank you guys for watching and tune in for our next one.